I don't think Carl had a vision of people as being, Sagan had a vision of this sort of great mass of empty vessels out there into which science must be poured by experts. On the other hand, I do think that I do have some sympathy with Owen Flanagan's point about, you know, if you've got expertise, let's use it. So the challenge here is to find out where's the balance, it seems to me. I mean, how do you engage an audience? How do you get more people to understand that science rocks and that they should know some more about it? And so we've already got people primed here. John Haidt?
Okay, yes, I have a question which is basically a follow-up on exactly what you just said. For Chris and Sheril primarily, stories about the decline of anything in America are often relative to a sort of an unnatural high point in the past. So this golden age or a previous time when people looked at scientists very positively reflects a time during the Cold War when scientists, of course, were part of our battle against an external enemy. And what's happened since then is, of course, the external enemy has gone, and the internal division, the culture war, has taken its place, and science is now on one side versus the other. So my question to you guys is, can you think of some way to basically use this sort of tribal moral psychology that we have, basically, you know, let's get some external enemy where science can help us fight it, or at least reduce the internal divisions?
It's a great question, and actually we just wrote the rough draft form, the end of our book, which tries to address this, and we say that, you know, even if you had all the media coverage of science that you want to have, would that really equal the 50s, because science at that time was part of the national mission, okay? How would you restore that? And the thing that we came up with was the energy issue. Basically, take up the charge to remake the energy system. It's a scientific mission. It's incredibly urgent, and the economy and the world depend upon it. And if we associate that with the scientific community's endeavors, then we're starting to reconnect it with what America needs. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, but there's no person on the other side. Morality requires opponents who are agents, not so global warming, energy shortages. Those aren't very good enemies.
Well, but the pump is an enemy.
Psychologically speaking.
You know, the gas station is an enemy. That's the best I can do.
Let's try to do better.
Yeah.
Walter.
I have a question for Tony. And this, I guess my take on psychology, I don't know if I have any evidence for this, but it seems like you can, it's difficult to get people to believe things when you're asking them to make radical changes in their lifestyle and you offer no hope for anything better. So you can't even get people to look at pictures of factory farming of animals because they want their steak, right? And it's not clear that, you know, that any option is being offered that they like. I mean, tofu just doesn't do it for them. And so I think part of the problem here is that we see things like, you know, we want more money. Why? So we can document our planet's destruction. Well, I'm sorry, if that's all we're doing, I'm not sure I'm going to give you any money, right? Or, you know, so we can know how much time we have left. I don't know that I'd like to know how much time we have left. If that's all we're doing. It seems to me if science wants to get the public to listen and pay attention and really study, they've got to say, and we're going to be working to solve the problem this way. We're going to, you know, put technology into you know, alternative sources, and there really is a hope in this area. And we want the money to do something about it, not to document the planet's destruction. I mean, that's just really a comment. I'm not sure that there's a question there. But it does seem to me that if we're going to get people to listen to science, we've got to show how much science can help, how it can provide a candle in the dark.
I'll just respond. The document, The Planet's Destruction, was supposed to be a joke, and I'm sorry it didn't come across that way. I am an optimist. I think we're going to solve this problem. Most of the reason is that, you know, I just greeted our 45 PhD students who are starting at Scripps, and they're unafraid of this. You know, they're going to work on algae biofuels and you know, ocean energy and all kinds of things. You know, they're not lamenting the bad hand that our generation has given them. They just think it's a task. And you know, just to reflect on the morning session, when I think of my own happiness, And how can I be happy given the fact that there's this cloud of CO2 over us? It's because it's a challenge. I want to get out there every day and beat this damn issue. And that's what our 22-year-old, PhD graduates really do think. And they have a life ahead of them and an inspiration and a creativity to do it. So, it's a lesson for me not to be too ironical or Australian when I speak to you, that you think I really want to document the planet's destruction, although that's, what many of my political friends complain to me that I'm doing. But I think there's great hope. I think there's a reality. And if I had more time, I would try and analyze, why is the UK so different than the USA? It may be that Margaret Thatcher has a master's degree in chemistry and instantly understood the perils of global warming, and so it never became a left-right issue.
And if I may just touch on that too, when we're talking specifically about fisheries, it's not so much, okay, we'll eat some tofu, because that's not realistic. But I think there are emerging markets with new opportunities. I mean, we are a changing planet. We've always been a changing planet. It's not that we're just going to level zero. The reason I worked on sea cucumbers is because when all the big species were fished out of the Gulf of Maine, sea cucumbers became an emerging market to ship overseas, which does create new jobs, which does affect people. So you can really harness some of that and look for new hope. And then hopefully, even out the biomass in other ways.
Roger just handed me the mic and said elitism, so I take it you want some outburst of elitism from me. Happily, I can respond. So I think I should just respond briefly to some of the chastisement I heard in Chris and Sheril's
It was just me.
lecture, yes. The first thing is that I have always acknowledged that there's a role for different voices in this, and I don't think everyone should necessarily adopt my posture with respect to religion. It would be easier that way, but I'm realistic that that's not going to happen. But I just want to, by analogy, talk for a moment about the cost we pay for not calling a spade and not pointing to the frank delusion that goes by the name of faith, and trying to be more conciliatory in the sense that you're recommending. I mean, no one is tempted to talk this way about witchcraft. I mean, witchcraft, like religion, is a cultural universal. We have basically stamped out a belief in witchcraft in the West, so that you no longer hear of people getting diagnoses of demonic possession and not seeing neurologists, etc. And when you do hear of such a thing, it's considered to be frank child abuse, and people are prosecuted. But if you go to Africa, if you go to Angola, there's a belief in witchcraft is ubiquitous, and the belief that children can be witches is ubiquitous. And there's a pandemic of child witches being tortured and being rendered homeless in Angola in particular, but throughout Africa. No one is tempted in our culture to accommodate that based on the ancient pedigree of belief in witchcraft and the efficacy of spell casting and all of that. And you could line up people as far as the eye could see who could tell you how they need witchcraft, how important it is in their lives. So my point is that religion has many of the liabilities of witchcraft. I think some of them are quite worse when you talk about apocalyptic Christianity and Islam. Your energy solution, I agree with your energy solution. I spoke about that in my first book, that we need a Manhattan Project to render oil useless. But the person standing on the other side of that moral chasm it's not just the pump, it is these